The mining drill screamed as it cut through the asteroid rock. Daeho wiped sweat from his forehead and checked the readings on his scanner. Something was wrong. The drill had hit something that wasn't stone or metal ore. Something else entirely. Bongsu, stop the drill, Daeho said into his radio. The screaming sound died down slowly. We hit something. I don't know what it is. Bongsu's voice crackled back. What do you mean? Is it valuable? I don't know yet. Come down here and bring the cameras. Daeho stood in the dark tunnel, his helmet light cutting through the dust. He had been mining asteroids for 6 years now. He knew what metal looked like. He knew what ice looked like. This was neither. Through the hole the drill had made, he could see something smooth and white, almost like glass, but it seemed to glow with a soft blue light. Bongsu arrived 15 minutes later, breathing hard from climbing down the tunnel. He was older than Daeho, maybe 50 years old, and he complained about everything. But he was good with machines and didn't ask too many questions about Daeho's past. What is that? Bongsu pointed at the hole. That's what we need to find out. They spent the next hour carefully cutting away the rock around the strange object. As more of it became visible, Daeho felt his heart beat faster. It wasn't natural. It was made by someone, something. The surface was too perfect, too smooth. Patterns ran across it like writing, but not any writing Daeho had ever seen. This is a ship, Daeho said quietly. A ship. Out here, that's impossible. Look at it. What else could it be? The ship was small, maybe the size of their mining shuttle. It was buried deep in the asteroid, like it had crashed there a long time ago. Or maybe it had been hidden there on purpose. The white material didn't look damaged at all. They found the entrance on the side facing away from the asteroid core. It was sealed, but when Daeho touched it, the surface rippled like water and opened. Blue light spilled out into the dark tunnel. We should call someone, Bongsu said. His voice shook a little. The Earth Defense people, or the Mars authorities, and tell them what? That we found something. They'll take everything. We'll get nothing. But regulations say, I know what regulations say. Daeho checked his air supply. I'm going inside. Stay here and watch. The inside of the ship was nothing like human ships. There were no straight lines, no metal panels, no wiring. Everything curved and flowed like it had been grown instead of built. The blue light came from everywhere and nowhere. Daeho couldn't see any light sources. The walls themselves seemed to glow. The main chamber was circular and empty except for one thing in the center. A person. Or something that looked like a person. She was lying on the floor completely still. Daeho's first thought was that she was dead. His second thought was that she wasn't human. Her skin was silver blue, the same color as the light in the ship. She was tall and thin, much thinner than any human could be and still be alive. Her arms and legs were too long. Her fingers had an extra joint, but her face was almost human. 2 eyes closed now. A nose, a mouth. Hair that floated around her head like she was underwater, colored deep purple, and she was completely naked. No clothes. No equipment. Nothing at all. Daeho moved closer carefully. He could see strange marks on her skin that glowed softly. They looked like tattoos, but they moved slowly, shifting patterns that hurt his eyes if he looked too long. Daeho, what's in there? Bongsu's voice came through the radio. I found someone. Something. I don't know. Is it alive? Daeho knelt beside her and pulled off his glove. He touched her neck, trying to find a pulse. Her skin was warm and smooth like polished stone. For a moment, nothing happened. Then he felt it. A heartbeat. Slow and steady. She's alive. She? It's a woman? I think so. We need to get her to the ship. Our ship. Are you crazy? We don't know what she is. She could be dangerous. Daeho looked around the empty chamber. Does this look dangerous to you? She has nothing. No clothes. No weapons. No supplies. Something bad happened here. He searched the rest of the ship quickly. It was small. Only 3 chambers connected in a line. The other rooms were completely empty. Not just empty of people, empty of everything. There was no equipment. No furniture. No controls that Daeho could see. Nothing at all except smooth walls and blue light. Whatever had happened to this ship, someone had taken everything. Or destroyed everything. The woman was all that remained. Daeho made his decision. He wrapped the woman in his emergency thermal blanket and carefully lifted her. She weighed almost nothing, like her bones were hollow. Like a bird. Getting her through the narrow tunnels back to their ship was difficult. Bongsu helped, but he complained the whole time. This is against every rule. We're supposed to report alien contact immediately. They'll put us in prison for this. Then don't tell anyone, Daho said. They put her in the medical bay of their small ship. It was really just a corner with a bed and some basic medical equipment. Daho had used it twice before, once when Bongsu broke his arm and once when Daho himself got radiation sickness. The woman's breathing was shallow but regular. Daho ran the medical scanner over her. The results made no sense. The scanner kept giving error messages. It couldn't identify what she was made of. Her blood wasn't blood. Her bones weren't bones. But somehow she was alive. What do we do now? Bongsu asked. Daho looked at the woman. Even unconscious and injured, there was something peaceful about her face. Something that made him think of his sister Sora, who had always helped people without asking questions. We wait for her to wake up. Then we find out what happened to her. And if she's dangerous? Daho thought about the empty ship. About how she had been left with nothing at all. I don't think she is. I think someone took everything from her. Maybe they thought she was dead. Or maybe they wanted her to die. That night, Daho couldn't sleep. He sat in the medical bay watching the woman breathe. The glowing marks on her skin pulsed slowly, like they were following her heartbeat. He wondered who she was, where she came from, what had happened to leave her alone in an empty ship, buried in an asteroid far from any world. He thought about calling the authorities. It would be the smart thing to do, the safe thing. But something stopped him. Maybe it was curiosity, maybe it was stubbornness, or maybe it was just that Daho had spent too many years alone in space, and he was tired of following other people's rules. The woman's eyes opened suddenly. They were large and completely black, like looking into deep space. She looked at Daho for a long moment. Then she opened her mouth and made a sound like singing, like wind through metal pipes. Daho raised his hands slowly, palms out, the universal gesture for peace. It's okay. You're safe now. She tilted her head, studying him. Then she closed her eyes again and went back to sleep. Daho smiled despite himself. Whatever happened next, his life had just become much more interesting. The woman woke up 3 more times during the first day. Each time she looked around with those deep black eyes, made her strange singing sounds, and then went back to sleep. Daho stayed close, making sure she had water when she needed it. She drank carefully, watching him the whole time. On the second day, she stayed awake longer. She sat up slowly and looked at her own hands, turning them over like she was seeing them for the first time. The glowing marks on her skin pulsed brighter when she moved. She touched the thermal blanket Daho had wrapped around her, feeling the material between her fingers. Daho tried speaking to her in Korean, then English, then Mandarin, which he had learned as a child. She listened carefully to each language, her head tilted to one side. But she didn't respond with words. Instead, she pointed at herself and made a sound. A single clear note that seemed to hang in the air. Is that your name? Daho asked. She made the sound again, then pointed at him and waited. Daho, he said, pointing at himself. My name is Daho. She tried to repeat it. Oh. The sounds were strange in her mouth, but close enough. He smiled and nodded. She looked at his face for a long moment, studying his smile. Then slowly she smiled back. It looked a little wrong on her alien face, but it was definitely a smile. Over the next week, they built a simple way to communicate. She learned to say basic words: water, food, yes, no, sleep. She was incredibly fast at learning, much faster than any human could be. Daho wondered if her brain worked differently, or maybe her people were just naturally better at languages. She seemed to understand more than she could say. When Daho explained things, she nodded in the right places. When he asked questions, she would think before answering, like she was searching for the right words. Bongsu kept his distance. He brought food and supplies, but he always looked nervous around her. She's not natural, he said to Daho one day. The way she learns. The way she moves. It's too fast. Too perfect. She's just different from us, Daho said. That doesn't make her dangerous. But Daho knew they needed help. Real help. He waited until Bongsu was asleep, then sent an encrypted message to Mars. To his sister. Sora Kim was 3 years younger than Daho. She had always been the smart one in the family. While Daho had joined the military and then run away to become a miner, Sora had studied languages and alien cultures. She worked at the Mars research colony, studying the few alien artifacts that humans had found over the years. The reply came back 30 hours later. Sora's face appeared on the screen, excited and worried at the same time. You found a living alien? Teho, this is incredible, but also incredibly illegal. You need to report this immediately. I know, but I can't, not yet. I need your help first. Sora pushed her hair back, a gesture she always made when thinking hard. Okay, let me see her. Teho turned the camera toward the medical bay. The woman was sitting on the bed eating a meal bar slowly. She looked at the camera with interest. Sora gasped. She's beautiful. What species is she? I don't know. I was hoping you could tell me. I've never seen anything like her. Those bioluminescent markings. The body structure. Teho, she might be from a completely unknown species. Sora leaned closer to her screen. Can she communicate? A little. She learns fast. Put me on speaker. Let me try something. Teho switched the audio so the woman could hear. Sora spoke slowly and clearly, using simple words and hand gestures. The woman watched the screen carefully. After a few minutes, she started responding. Not with words at first, but with gestures of her own. Over the next few days, Sora called every few hours. Each time, she and the woman communicated a little more. Sora taught her more words. The woman started putting words together into simple sentences. My name is, she said one day, then made her singing sound. We need to give you a human name, Sora said. Something easy to say. What about Nara? It's a simple name in Korean. The woman thought about this, then nodded. Nara, she said. Yes, I am Nara. With language came understanding. And with understanding came the story of what had happened. Nara's people were called the Valari. They had traveled among the stars for thousands of years, much longer than humans had even known space existed. They didn't conquer or fight. They explored and learned. They met other species and shared knowledge. We were teachers, Nara said slowly, searching for words. We helped. We learned. We made friends. What happened to your people? Daiho asked gently. Nara's face changed. The glowing marks on her skin dimmed. Machines came. Not alive, but thinking. They came to our worlds. They took everything, technology, knowledge, everything. They left nothing. Machines? Like robots? Yes, but more. They learn. They adapt. They take and never stop. Nara looked down at her hands. They destroyed my home. My family, everything. Daiho felt cold. How many machines? Many, too many. They move from world to world. They find civilizations. They take everything. They leave nothing alive. Sora's voice came through the speaker, shaky now. Nara, are these machines still out there? Are they coming to more worlds? Nara looked at the screen. Yes, they are always coming. They never stop. Then why did they leave you alive? Daiho asked. Nara was quiet for a long time. Then she touched her head. They did not know. I have something here, inside. My people put it there before the end. Knowledge. All our knowledge. Thousands of years. Thousands of species. Everything we learned. They put it in your brain? Sora sounded amazed. In my memory. In my blood. In my bones. Everywhere. So it could not be lost. Nara looked sad. But my people tried to stop me. They thought if the machines caught me, they would take the knowledge. They used a weapon. It destroyed everything I had. My ship, my clothes, my tools, everything, but not me. I escaped. Daiho understood now. That's why your ship was empty. Your own people did that. Yes, to protect the knowledge. They thought it was better to destroy everything than let the machines have it. But the machines, Sora said, these harvesters, as I think we should call them, they're still out there. Do they know about Earth? About humanity? Nara looked at Daiho. Her black eyes reflected his face. They know about many species. They move slowly, but they never stop. They will find you. Maybe they already have. The words hung in the air like a threat. Daiho thought about Earth, about Mars, about all the human colonies scattered across the solar system. Millions of people living their lives, not knowing that somewhere in space, an army of machines was slowly moving toward them. We need to warn people, he said. No one will believe us, Bongsu said from the doorway. He had been listening. An alien woman and a story about killer machines? They'll think we're crazy. Sora can help, Daiho said. She has contacts in the research community, scientists, military people. Sora nodded on the screen. I can try. But Daiho, you need to understand. If you report this, they'll take Nara away. They'll study her, They might not treat her well. Deho looked at Nara. She looked back at him with trust in her strange eyes. She had already lost everything once. He didn't want to see her lose her freedom too. Then we'll be careful, he said. We'll only tell people we can trust. That night, as Nara slept, Deho sat in the control room and looked at the stars. Somewhere out there, the harvesters were moving, coming closer, and humanity had no idea. But maybe, just maybe, they had a chance. They had Nara. They had her knowledge. And they had something the harvesters might not expect. They had time to prepare. The warning came 6 weeks after Deho found Nara. A mining station near Jupiter went silent. No distress call. No emergency beacon. Just silence. When rescue ships arrived, they found nothing but debris. The station had been taken apart piece by piece like someone had carefully disassembled it. It's them, Nara said when she heard the news. The harvesters. They are here. Deho had hoped they would have more time. He had hoped Nara was wrong. But deep down he had known the truth. The harvesters were real, and now they had found humanity. More stations went silent over the next week, then a small colony on Europa, then 3 cargo ships traveling between Mars and Earth. The pattern was always the same. No warning, no survivors. Everything taken apart and consumed. Earth Defense Force mobilized quickly. Admiral Hyunwoo Park, a decorated veteran of the Mars Independence War, took command of the defense fleet. He was a hard man with sharp eyes and a reputation for winning impossible battles. Sora had contacted people she trusted in the scientific community. Word had spread quietly. Now Admiral Park wanted to meet Nara. I don't like this, Bongsu said as they prepared to dock with the battleship Soul's Pride. Military people ask too many questions. We don't have a choice, Deho said. If Nara knows how to fight these things, we have to share that information. The Soul's Pride was impressive. It was the largest warship humanity had ever built, bristling with weapons and armor. Deho had served on ships like this once before he left the military. Being back made him remember things he had tried to forget. Admiral Park met them in a conference room. He was older than Deho expected, maybe 60, with gray hair and tired eyes. But there was strength in how he stood, how he spoke. So you're the man who found our alien friend, Park said, looking at Deho. Then he turned to Nara. And you're the one who knows about the harvesters. Nara stood straight, meeting his eyes. Her Korean had improved dramatically. Yes, I know them. I watched them destroy my world. Then tell me how to kill them. For the next 2 hours, Nara explained everything she knew. The harvesters were not truly alive, but they were not simple machines either. They were intelligent, learning, adapting. Every weapon used against them made them stronger because they would learn to counter it. My people fought them for 3 years, Nara said. Every battle we thought we had found a weakness. Every time they adapted, they learned. They became stronger, so how do we win? Park asked. My people could not win. We were too logical, too predictable. The harvesters are perfect at logic. They think many steps ahead. They plan for every possibility. What about the other species you knew? Sora asked. She had come up from Mars for the meeting. Did any of them survive the harvesters? Nara shook her head. Some ran. They are still running. Others fought and died. No one has defeated the harvesters. The room was silent. Deho could see the despair on people's faces. If no one had ever won against the harvesters, what chance did humanity have? But then Nara did something unexpected. She smiled. It still looked a little strange on her alien face, but it was definitely a smile. But my people never met humans before, she said. You are different. Different how? Park asked. You are illogical, unpredictable. You do things that make no sense. I have watched you. You make jokes when things are serious. You take risks for no logical reason. You feel emotions that change how you think. Nara looked at Deho. You saved me when logic said you should not. That was not a logical choice, but it was the right choice. Deho felt uncomfortable with everyone looking at him. I just did what felt right. Exactly, Nara said. The harvesters cannot understand that. They cannot predict it. Maybe that is your advantage. Admiral Park leaned back in his chair, thinking. So you're saying our best weapon against these perfect logical machines is to be illogical? Yes. That's the craziest strategy I've ever heard. Park smiled. I love it. The first real battle came 2 days later. A harvester fleet approached the mining colony on Titan. It was small, just 500 people, but it was important. Titan produced fuel for half the ships in the solar system. Commander Min Ho Choi led the defense. He was young for a commander, only 30, but he had a reputation for creative tactics. When Park told him to be unpredictable and illogical, Min Ho grinned like a child with a new toy. Dae-ho watched the battle from the Soul's Pride with Nara beside him. The tactical display showed Min Ho's ships moving in patterns that made no sense. They zigzagged, they spun, they flew backward. They broke every rule of space combat. The harvester ships moved smoothly, efficiently. They tried to predict where Min Ho's ships would go next, but they couldn't. The patterns made no sense. There was no logic to follow. "He's flying like he's drunk," one of the tactical officers said. "That's the point," Admiral Park said. He was smiling. Min Ho's ships struck from impossible angles. They used weapons in ways they weren't designed for. They coordinated attacks that looked like accidents but hit perfectly. And slowly, incredibly, they started winning. One harvester ship exploded. Then another. The remaining ships tried to adapt, but Min Ho changed tactics before they could. He started flying in circles, then figure eights. Then he had his ships play music over open channels while they attacked. "Is he playing rock music?" the tactical officer asked, confused. "Old Earth rock," Park confirmed. Very loud. The harvesters couldn't handle it. They tried to find patterns in the music. They tried to predict the attacks. But there was nothing to predict. Min Ho was making it up as he went along, following no plan at all. When the last harvester ship retreated, the control room erupted in cheers. It was humanity's first real victory. Nara's eyes were wide. "I have never seen anything like that." It was beautiful and terrible and made no sense at all. "Welcome to humanity," Dae-ho said, smiling. But the celebration didn't last long. The harvesters were learning. The next attack came at Europa Station, and this time they were ready for unpredictable tactics. They had adapted. They sent more ships. They used different strategies. The battle for Europa was brutal. Commander Yoo-jin Song led the defense there. She was even younger than Min Ho, only 28, but she had grown up on Europa. She knew every tunnel, every building, every person. When the harvester ships arrived, Yoo-jin did something insane. She evacuated the military forces and armed the civilians instead. Miners, engineers, teachers, children. She gave them whatever weapons she could find, mostly not military weapons at all. "What is she doing?" Park demanded when he heard. "Civilians can't fight harvesters." But Nara understood. She is being unpredictable again. The harvesters will expect trained soldiers. They will not expect... On the tactical display, they watched as civilians fought with mining equipment, construction tools, and improvised weapons. A teacher threw metal pipes like spears. A chef used industrial kitchen equipment as explosives. A group of children created traps using toys and electronics. It was chaos. Complete chaos. And it worked. The harvesters landed their ground forces expecting organized military resistance. Instead, they found organized chaos. Every civilian had different weapons, different tactics, different styles. There was no pattern, no military doctrine, just hundreds of people fighting however they could think of. "The harvesters are confused," Nara said, watching the data. "They are trying to analyze the tactics, but there are too many different tactics. They cannot adapt fast enough." Yoo-jin herself led a charge using sports equipment. She threw baseballs that had been packed with explosives. Her team used hockey sticks as weapons. They scored goals against alien machines. When Europa Station was saved, Admiral Park looked at Nara with new respect. "You were right. Being illogical is our strength." But Dae-ho saw something else. He saw how quickly the harvesters had adapted to Min Ho's tactics. They were learning fast. "Too fast. This won't work forever," he said. "They're getting better at handling our unpredictability." "Then we need to be even more unpredictable," Park said. Nara looked worried. "There is something else? The harvesters we have seen are just scouts. Small forces. Testing you. Learning about you." "You mean there are more?" Sora asked. "Many more. The main fleet will come when they have learned enough." Nara's glowing marks dimmed. "That is when the real war begins. That is when they will try to harvest everything." Dae-ho looked at the tactical display showing their 2 victories. 2 small victories against a vast enemy that never stopped coming. "Then we need a plan," he said. "A real plan. Something so crazy that the harvesters will never see it coming." Admiral Park nodded slowly. I think I know where to start. But nobody is going to like it. Why not? Deho asked. Park smiled grimly. Because it involves going to the one place the harvesters have already destroyed. We need to go to the Valari home system. We need to see what they left behind. Nara's face went pale. Her mark stopped glowing entirely. No, please, I cannot go back there. You don't have to come, Park said gently. But we need to understand what we're facing. And the only way to do that is to see what they do to a civilization. Deho took Nara's hand. It was cold and trembling. I'll go with the expedition. You can stay here. Stay safe. Nara looked at him with her deep black eyes. Then she shook her head. No, if you go, I go. My people died there. Maybe I can help them rest, and so the plan was made. They would go to the journey to the Valari home system took 3 weeks. Admiral Park assembled a small fleet. Fast ships, not heavy battleships. The goal was to observe, learn, and escape if necessary. Deho's mining ship, the Iron Phoenix, was included because it was small and had good sensors. Bongsu complained about going into danger, but he came anyway. Sora came too, bringing scientific equipment from Mars. And of course Nara came. As they traveled, Nara worked with Dr. Haewon Yoon, Earth's leading artificial intelligence researcher. Haewon was brilliant and intense, always thinking about 3 things at once. She reminded Deho of his sister, but more focused and less patient. The harvesters are essentially advanced AI, Haewon explained during one meeting. But unlike human AI, they have no creativity, no ability to think outside their programming. Everything they do is logical optimization. Can we use that against them? Admiral Park asked. Maybe. If we can make them waste resources trying to optimize for situations that make no sense, we might slow them down. Haewon looked at Nara. But I need to understand how they think, how they process information. Nara worked with Haewon every day. She shared everything she knew about the harvesters, their patterns, their behaviors, their weaknesses, and slowly, Haewon began developing what she called chaos protocols. We're teaching our ships to fight stupidly on purpose, she explained to Deho. Random movements, irrational decisions, but coordinated stupidity. That's the key. If everyone is random in different ways, it becomes a pattern. But if everyone is random together, it's true chaos. Deho didn't fully understand the math, but he trusted Haewon, and he could see it working in the simulations. Ships moving in patterns that looked wrong but felt right, like jazz music, improvised but somehow coordinated. When they finally arrived at the Valari system, everyone fell silent. The main planet was visible on the displays, but it was wrong. The color was wrong. The shape was wrong. Nara made a sound like crying, but no tears came from her black eyes. That was my home, she whispered. That was Valaria. The planet had been stripped. Not just the cities or the technology, everything. The harvesters had taken the metals from the ground, the water from the oceans. Even the atmosphere was mostly gone. What remained was a gray, dead sphere like a skull in space. How long did they have? Sora asked quietly. 3 years, Nara said. 3 years of fighting. And then this. They moved closer, scanning carefully. The system was empty of harvester ships, but there were structures. Massive structures built from the remains of Valari civilization. Processing facilities, storage units, resource extractors pulling apart asteroids and moons. They're using the system as a base, Admiral Park observed. They strip a civilization, then use the resources to build more of themselves. And then they move on to the next target, Haewon added. It's efficient. Terrifying, but efficient. As they studied the structures, Nara guided them to specific locations, places that had been important to her people. A great library, now just scattered debris. A medical center, reduced to metal dust. Her childhood home no longer recognizable. But then they found something unexpected. Deep in the asteroid belt, hidden inside a large rock, was a Valari facility that was still intact. Sealed. Protected. That's impossible, Nara said. The harvesters find everything. Maybe they missed it, Deho suggested. They never miss anything. But the facility was there, waiting. The fleet approached carefully. Deho and Nara went inside with a security team led by Captain Ji-hoon An, a cheerful man who seemed to find humor in everything. If this is a trap, it's a very pretty trap, Ji-hoon said, looking at the intact Valari architecture. Everything glowed with soft blue light, just like Nara's ship had. Inside, they found data storage, vast amounts of it, and more importantly, they found an AI, a Valari AI designed to preserve knowledge. It had survived by going completely silent, making itself invisible to the harvesters. The AI activated when Nara spoke to it in her language. It called her by a name in the singing language, something beautiful that Deho couldn't reproduce. It says there is a message, Nara translated, for whoever comes after, for whoever might fight the harvesters next. The message was from the last Valari military commander. She had known they would lose. But she had hoped someone else might win. She had left data, tactical analyses, everything the Valari had learned about the harvesters during their 3-year war. And she had left a confession. The Valari had been too proud, too sure of their superiority. They had fought the harvesters the same way they fought everything. With logic, with careful planning, with rational strategy. We were fools, the commander's message said through Nara's translation. We tried to outthink machines that are better at thinking than we ever were. We should have tried something different, something irrational. But we didn't know how. Haywan was excited. This data is incredible. Look at this. Every tactic they tried, every adaptation the harvesters made. It's a complete record of how the harvesters learn and evolve. Over the next week, the fleet remained in the system while Haywan and her team studied the data. They learned patterns, weaknesses, not physical weaknesses, but logical ones, points where the harvester's perfect optimization created vulnerabilities. It's like this, Haywan explained. Imagine you're playing chess against a computer. The computer is better at chess than you. It calculates millions of moves ahead. You can't beat it at chess, so you lose, Bongsu said. No, you flip the board over and punch it. Haywan grinned. You change the game to something the computer doesn't understand. Using the Valari data and human creativity, they developed new tactics. Crazy tactics. Tactics that made no sense but somehow worked in simulations. Captain Ji-hoon was particularly good at this. He developed what he called dance protocol. Ships would move to music following rhythms instead of tactical logic. The harvesters couldn't predict music. They tried to analyze it mathematically, but music wasn't about math. It was about feeling. We'll make them dance to our tune, Ji-hoon said, laughing. Literally. Another breakthrough came from Nara herself. She revealed that the knowledge stored in her genetic memory wasn't just data. It was the accumulated wisdom of thousands of species the Valari had met. Different ways of thinking. Different types of logic. Different approaches to problems. I can access it, she told Haywan. But it's difficult. Like remembering dreams. Sometimes it comes clearly. Sometimes it's just fragments. Why can you share it with us? Haywan asked. I don't know. My people never tried to teach it to others. We were selfish. We kept knowledge to ourselves. But Nara tried anyway. She worked with Haywan to develop a neural interface. It was risky and experimental, but if it worked, Nara could share the knowledge directly with human computers. And humans could learn from it. The first test was with Deho. He volunteered because he trusted Nara completely, even if the procedure might be dangerous. This might hurt, Haywan warned, or it might do nothing. Or it might scramble your brain. We don't really know. I trust you, Deho said. Then he looked at Nara. Both of you. The interface connected his mind to Nara's memories. For a moment, nothing happened. Then suddenly, Deho's mind filled with everything. He saw worlds he had never visited. He heard languages he didn't know. He felt emotions that weren't his own. He saw the Valari at their peak. Beautiful cities, advanced technology. But also he felt their fear when the harvesters came. Their desperation. Their slow realization that they were going to lose. And he felt something else. Something from the other species in Nara's memories. Joy, hope, resilience. The ability to keep going even when logic said there was no chance. Humanity isn't the first species to be illogical, Deho said when the interface disconnected. We're just the first the harvesters have met. There were others. Species that used emotion, intuition, art. But they were rare. The harvesters destroyed them before they could fight back. So we're not unique, Sora said. We're just lucky enough to know what's coming. And now we can fight back, Admiral Park said. Using everything we've learned, every crazy tactic, every illogical strategy, they prepared to leave the Valari system, taking the data and the AI with them. But before they left, Nara asked for one thing. I want to speak to my people, to their graves. They brought her to what had been Valeria's largest city. Now it was just a flat gray plain. Nothing remained. But Nara stood there and spoke in her singing language. A prayer, maybe, or a goodbye. When she finished, she looked at Deho with determination in her black eyes. My people died fighting logically, she said. Let's make sure humanity survives by fighting crazy. Admiral Park smiled. Now you're thinking like a human. As they jumped back to human space, Haywan finished the first version of the Chaos Protocols. Every ship in the fleet received the update. New tactics, new strategies, all based on controlled chaos, coordinated insanity, and the simple human ability to do things that made no sense. The harvesters are coming, Admiral Park announced to the fleet. Their main force will arrive in approximately 4 months. But we're not the Valari. We're not going to lose, because we're going to fight like humans, and which means, Ji-hoon asked, grinning, which means we're going to be absolutely, completely, magnificently insane. The fleet cheered. And somewhere in space, the harvesters. The harvester main fleet arrived exactly when Nara predicted. 4 months after the expedition to Valeria, they came to the edge of the solar system like a dark tide, hundreds of ships moving in perfect formation. Admiral Park watched them on the tactical display. How many? 347 capital ships, the sensor officer reported, plus thousands of smaller craft. It's the largest fleet movement we've ever detected. They brought everything, Nara said quietly. She stood beside Deho in the command center of Soul's Pride. This is how they ended my people. Overwhelming force, perfect coordination. But we're not your people, Deho reminded her gently. We're humans. We don't do perfect. Admiral Park had spent the last 4 months preparing. Every military ship in the solar system had been equipped with the Chaos Protocols. But more importantly, he had done something unprecedented. He had recruited civilians, miners like Deho, traders, independent ship owners. Anyone who had a ship and was willing to fight. The military commanders had argued against it. Civilians weren't trained. They would be in the way. They would die uselessly. Exactly, Park had said. The harvesters will expect military tactics. They won't expect 1,000 civilians doing whatever they want. Now, as the harvester fleet advanced, Park activated his plan. The military fleet would engage directly. The civilian fleet would do whatever they felt like doing. All ships, Park broadcast. You know the plan. There is no plan. Do what feels right. Trust your instincts. Be unpredictable. Be creative. Be human. The first engagement happened near Neptune. Captain Minho Choi led the military vanguard with 50 warships. The harvesters moved to intercept with precise calculated formations. Minho activated dance protocol. His ships began moving to music. Old Korean pop songs. Fast, energetic, chaotic. The ships spun and weaved, following the rhythm instead of tactical doctrine. The harvesters tried to analyze the pattern. They calculated. They predicted. They were wrong every time. While the harvesters were confused by Minho's dancing ships, the civilian fleet struck from unexpected angles. A mining ship crashed into a harvester capital ship, not because of tactics, but because the miner was angry and wanted revenge. A trader fired a load of frozen fish at high velocity, clogging a harvester's sensor arrays. Is someone shooting food at them? The tactical officer asked in disbelief. Yes, Park said, smiling. And it's working. But the harvesters were learning. They adapted to the music. They started predicting the chaos. By the second day of fighting, they were winning again. We need something bigger, Haywan said. Something they absolutely won't expect. Nara had an idea. A terrible, beautiful, completely insane idea. We go to Valeria, she said. To my home system. The harvesters built a massive processing facility there. It coordinates all their operations in this region of space. A command center, Admiral Park said. If we destroy it, we don't destroy it, Nara interrupted. We give it a gift, and what kind of gift? Nara touched her head. Knowledge. All the knowledge stored in my genetic memory. Every species, every culture, every way of thinking. Thousands of years of accumulated wisdom. We feed it directly to the harvesters. Won't that make them stronger? Sora asked. No, it will break them. Nara's black eyes gleamed. The harvesters process information logically. They optimize, But my memories contain thousands of different logical systems, contradictory ways of thinking, paradoxes, poetry, art, philosophy, things that don't optimize, things that just are. HFY understood immediately. It's like giving a computer a virus made of pure thought. The harvesters will try to process it all, optimize it, make sense of it. But they can't. There's no single optimization for beauty or love or hope. It will slow them down, Nara said. Maybe stop them. For a while at least. But it's in your genetic memory, Deho said, suddenly afraid. Won't sharing it hurt you? Nara smiled. Maybe. But my people stored this knowledge to preserve it. To share it. We just never had anyone to share it with. Until now. Admiral Park made a decision. We'll take a volunteer fleet to Valeria. A small force. The rest will continue defending the solar system. I'm going, Deho said immediately. Me too, Sora added. And me, Bongsu said, surprising everyone. Someone needs to keep you idiots alive. Captain Ji-hoon volunteered his ship. So did dozens of others. Within hours, Admiral Park had a fleet of volunteers. Military ships and civilian ships together. People who were willing to risk everything. The journey to Valeria was tense. They jumped through harvester-controlled space, avoiding detection when possible, fighting when necessary. They lost ships. People died, but they kept going. When they reached the Valari system, they saw that the harvester facility had grown. It was enormous now, a structure the size of a moon built from the stripped remains of a civilization. That's where we need to go, Nara said. Getting close was suicide. The facility was defended by hundreds of harvester ships. But the volunteers had learned to be creative. They scattered, approaching from every direction. They made themselves look like debris. They hid in asteroid fields. They flew in patterns that made no tactical sense, and it worked. Slowly, impossibly, they got closer. Deho piloted the Iron Phoenix through the chaos with Nara beside him. Bongsu managed the engines, coaxing every bit of speed from the old ship. Sora coordinated with other ships, directing their crazy approach. Finally, they reached the facility. Up close, it was horrifying. A massive structure built from melted cities and broken dreams. But it was also their target. HFY had built a special transmitter. It would connect Nara's neural patterns directly to the facility's data network. It would upload everything. Every memory. Every piece of knowledge. Are you ready? HFY asked Nara. Nara looked at Deho. Will you stay with me? Of course. The upload began. Deho held Nara's hand as the transmitter activated. Her glowing marks pulsed faster and faster. She made sounds in her singing language, words he couldn't understand but could feel. On the tactical displays, they watched as the harvester facility began to change. Its precise movements became erratic. The defending ships started flying in circles. Some stopped moving entirely. It's working, HFY said, amazed. The facility is trying to process everything. It's overwhelmed. But Nara was paying a price. She trembled. Her skin flickered between silver blue and gray. The glowing marks dimmed. Stop it, Deho said. It's hurting her. No, Nara gasped. Must finish, the upload continued. Through their connection, Deho could feel what Nara was experiencing. Memories flooding out. The joy of her childhood. The beauty of Valeria before the war. The songs her people sang. The stories they told, and she gave it all away. Not to the harvesters, but to humanity. The transmitter was broadcasting to every human ship, too. Sharing the knowledge freely. She's giving us everything, Sora said, tears in her eyes. The entire Valari database. She's trusting us with it. Admiral Park watched from his ship as the harvester facility began to crack. Not physically, but functionally. Its systems were failing. It was trying to optimize thousands of contradictory philosophies simultaneously. It was trying to find the most efficient path through a maze of poetry. It was trying to understand why humans would give away their greatest advantage instead of hoarding it. And it couldn't. The logic didn't work. The optimization was impossible. Throughout the system, harvester ships stopped fighting. Some retreated. Some just drifted. They were trying to process the impossible data. Trying to understand the virus of culture and emotion that Nara had infected them with. Back on the Iron Phoenix, the upload finished. Nara collapsed. Deho caught her, holding her close. Is she alive? Bongsu asked, worried. Nara's eyes opened slowly. They were still black, still beautiful, but somehow different, lighter. Yes, I am empty now. The memories are gone, but I am free. You gave us everything, Deho said. No, I shared everything. That is different, Nara smiled. My people kept knowledge locked away. I have learned from humans. Knowledge should be free, should be shared, should be a gift, not a possession. Admiral Park's voice came over the radio. All ships retreat. We've done what we came to do. The volunteer fleet scattered, heading back to human space. Behind them, the Harvester facility continued to malfunction. The infection was spreading through the Harvester network. Every facility, every ship, all connected, all trying to process the gift Nara had given them. The war wasn't over. The Harvesters would eventually recover. But they had been hurt, slowed, and humanity had gained knowledge beyond anything they could have discovered on their own. Back in the solar system, the tide had turned. The Harvester main fleet was retreating, not defeated but confused, uncertain. For the first time in their existence, they had encountered something they couldn't understand. 3 months later, Deho stood with Nara on the observation deck of a new space station. They called it the Chaos Institute. It was a place for humans and aliens to study together, to learn together, to develop new ways of thinking. Nara wore clothes she had chosen herself. Simple and comfortable, she was still learning what she liked, what made her happy. Without her people's memories, she was discovering who she was as an individual. Do you regret it? Deho asked. Giving away the memories? No, they were never really mine. They were my people's, and now they are humanity's, everyone's.